Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Tahir. This is Inspired RC. Today we're going to be talking about steering issues I'm having with the Xmaxx and how I intend to try and resolve them or eliminate possible causes. So, if you've watched any of my recent videos, you've seen that I've taken this on a few skate parks and I've been on a BMX track in the woods, and it took a bit of a pounding on them runs. And since them runs, I'm finding that the car is turning okay when it turns right on, say, grass, but when it turns left on grass, it's being a bit sluggish. I think it seems as though the servo is being a bit sluggish. So guys, today we're going to be looking at the servo saver in particular, and we're going to be eliminating any kind of play in the servo saver, and I'm going to show you how you can tighten it and other things that you can do to the servo saver if just tightening the saver doesn't work for you. So let's get the body off the car. I'll show you quickly the area that we're talking about. Guys, the lid's off and I've got the camera pointed at the front section of the car, and this is where the steering system is all located. So what we're interested in is this grey cover here. We need to be removing this cover. Just to point out, this here is my control module for my lighting kit. If you haven't got a lighting kit, then you won't have this section and you won't have all these wires as well. But so for now we need to remove this cover. This cover is protecting the steering system, and to remove this cover you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 down there and 5 over here. 5 screws need to be removed. This screw here is going to be a smaller hex. Okay, the other screws you're going to need the same hex for. So all you need to remove these are the Traxxas supplied Allen key set. That's all you need, guys. That's what I love about Traxxas. They supply you the Allen keys, and they're good quality Allen key sets as well, guys. So make sure you don't lose them. You'll be utilizing these a lot if you're working on this car. So I'll get that removed and I'll show you what's underneath, and we'll talk about the servo saver, which is located here. Okay, before I remove the screws, I just wanted to quickly show you the different sizes that we've got, and you just need to make sure that you put these screws back in the right places. So from this screw hole here we get quite a long screw. Now guys, make sure that one goes back in the correct hole. It's this one here. Okay, then you have just on the opposite side there a lot smaller screw with which you require a smaller Allen key. So the smallest Allen key that you get with the Traxxas kit. Guys, this is one of them occasions where if you have got a magnet, you need to magnetize your tools, because you don't want to be dropping any of these screws into any nuts and crannies that you can't get into again. So I've just got this here, and I just run the magnet down the Allen key and make sure it's magnetized. So this is the smaller screw here. You need the smaller Allen key, and it's just a bit more delicate. Okay guys, you can see that it's a lot smaller. Maybe a 3mm screw, I'm not too sure. So guys, put that away somewhere safe. Then the remaining screws are all the same size. I've already removed them, I think. Oh, I've got one left there. I'll just take that one out. So guys, these are the remaining screws, and you have three of the screws which are this size. So now that the screws are all removed, we need to remove the cover that's on this grey cover here. So to remove this, it's a bit fiddly. You just need to get it loose, and it'll be a bit tight where the servo is, because it actually goes into the servo and it holds the servo in its place. Let's get my hands out of the way a bit, get better focus. So quickly remove this now. Make sure the servo stays in its position. Just keep your finger there if it does move, and it's just a case of just maneuvering this thing and just trying to get it out. There we go. So that's your cover, guys. So now with the cover removed, you've got, this is your servo saver here. Now you can see right in the center of there, you've got a screw. That screw is what tightens this servo saver up. Now when you are bashing it, it can become loose. It's only, I think it's only going into plastic, I'm not 100% sure. So with my car, as I said, it was steering well one way and it wasn't steering good the other way, and I was just a bit iffy. I knew that the servo saver could be an issue because my servo itself, when it wasn't under any kind of load, it was perfectly fine. It was moving full right and full left. So what I intend to do is I intend to just tighten this up, and to tighten it up you need your trusty Traxxas Allen key, this one here, and all you're going to do is just tighten it up as far as you dare tighten it. So mine's quite tight as it is. I have already gone in and done this. So guys, once that's tightened, make sure everything's back in its place. You can see there's a bearing on the top of there. Just make sure that's still there. Now there is a bearing that actually sits inside there, and it does attach to this part here where it keeps the servo saver in its place. So my bearing is attached to this side, but you might find that when you take it off, your bearing might still be sat inside there, and if it is, it's not a problem. You're still able to get an Allen key into it, and you're still able just to tighten it. Now this, guys, is an easy fix and an easy thing just to check before you have any other kind of issues. Now if once you've done this, you've tightened the screw up and you're finding it's still not helping, then what you can do is you can make the servo itself a lot tighter by adding some washers into it. So if you remove this screw is holding the servo saver all together. Once you remove this screw, the servo saver will come into pieces, and you can remove the spring and you can add some washers, or you can put some kind of spacers in there. But obviously you're going to make it tighter, so it'll mean that the steering servo itself might be under more stress. So you've got to bear that in mind as well, guys. So number one thing to do is to check the screw and make sure that this thing is tight first, and then maybe take it out for a run and see how you feel on that. If after that you're still finding it's still not behaving as you want it to, and it's making the steering sluggish, then maybe add a couple of washers into the whole system. So you have to remove the screw and then remove the spring, and find some kind of spacers or washers, whatever you can find that you can put into there. That's all good then. Another thing you can do is, if you're finding that this screw is coming loose after a few bashes, and every so often you're having to come in and tighten it, you can remove the screw, and this screw is very similar to this screw that we've already taken out. So what you can do is you can go for a 3mm longer screw, and if you get a longer screw, it'll go straight through the servo saver, and you'll have some sections showing at the back end, and you can get a nylock nut on there, or if you haven't got one of them nuts, you can just use an ordinary nut and use some thread lock, the blue one maybe, or the red one. It depends on how strong you want it. Now once you put a nut on the end of this screw, then this screw won't come loose anymore. so you know you can definitely say that the servo saver screw isn't the issue that you're having. So them are the three things that I would possibly do before you start looking at whether it's a servo or whether it's something else that's broken or anything like that. And once you have to go down that route, then you have to basically remove the whole steering system, and it's just a case of you can see where they're attached. So here on the steering links, one on this side, and there's one on the opposite side. There's a screw on there, a screw on there, there's a screw on this bit here as well. So it just systematically pull everything out, make sure your bearings are all good, and make sure there's no kind of cracks in the plastic when you're bashing it, because a crack will, when it's not under strain, you probably won't notice it, but when it's under strain, it will open up and mean that your steering might be affected one way or the other. So guys, this is how you can check your servo, make sure it's all good, and tighten it, make sure there's no play left in that servo before you start looking at any further disassembly or any further parts that you want to replace and stuff, guys. So once you're happy with that, you want to be just doing the same as what we just done, just to remove it all, put it all back together again. So make sure you put this cover back in, make sure your bearing is either sat on here or sat inside the servo, and it's moving freely as well, guys. Yeah. Once you've done that, make sure you put the screws back in its correct position. So the long screw goes back over here on this side, the small screw goes onto the post on there, and then the other three screws that you've got just go into the holes that are left. The servo saver itself doesn't have any kind of screw on there, so if you look, that's the hole for the servo saver, and you can see it's blanked off. So guys, it's just a bit of a fiddly thing just to put everything back together again. I'll get that done and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, all the screws are back in now. Just make sure that these are tight. This cover is actually holding your servo saver in its place. If these screws come loose, your servo saver could come loose as well, and it will affect your steering as well, guys. So make sure all your screws are nice and tight. Hand tighten them, don't be using any tools because it's all going into plastic. You don't want to be stripping any of these screws, it's going to be a ball ache. So guys, what I'm going to do now is just going to get the lid back on. I'm going to get some batteries into it as well, and we're just going to test the steering on my bench here and see how well it works on the bench. I'll be back with you in just 2 seconds. Okay, so just before we put the body on, I think it'll be better if we try the steering without the body on so we can see what's actually happening. So let's get it turned on. It seems to be working alright on there. I'm just gonna check it whilst it's not on anything. I think it's okay. I think we might have tightened it. I'm hoping that we may have resolved this issue by just tightening the servo saver. As I said, if it isn't that, then you can look to tightening the whole system up by putting some washers into it, and also you can put a longer screw in there and put a nut onto it so that screw doesn't come loose as well, guys. So this is worthwhile doing if you're having any kind of steering issues before you start going down the route of changing servos and changing things like that. Just get the body onto it. Obviously we're going to have to give this thing a test now, and see how it does. So yeah, we'll have to give this thing a test now. And the problems that I was seeing was on grass, and I'm not sure if the grass was too long or whether it's the steering on the car that was playing up. But in any case, I have been bashing on this quite hard, so it's a good idea just every so often to go in and just check your your steering servo and your servo saver as well, just to make sure everything's hunky-dory. Make sure that screw's nice and tight as well, guys. So I'm hoping that this is going to be resolving my issue that I'm having, and I hope this video has helped you guys as well. And if you did find it helpful, please like, please subscribe to see more easy fixes maybe, and more mods, more running videos on this thing as well, guys. Been bashing this really hard lately, and I don't really intend to stop. I might think of gearing this car up now. I'm finding that it's not doing its backflips, and it's not got the rotation in the air as much for the easy backflips. So yeah, guys, it might be doing that. Another video that I will be doing on this soon is I will be replacing the bearings, the stock bearings on this car, for some rubber seal bearings. I've got a full set of bearings for it. So yeah, guys, please like, subscribe and share, and please watch out for the next video, and see ya.